In a world filled with uncertainty, we are all trying to get physically, mentally, and emotionally healthy. But the struggle is real. The LiveWell Podcast exists to give you fun, relevant, and impactful strategies that will help you get healthy, stay healthy, and live well. Hosted by Dr. Mike Roncesvalles, a clinical psychologist with 2 decades of experience in the field, and his LiveWell crew. We promise the time you spend listening to the LiveWell Podcast will help you thrive like you never have before.
And welcome to the LiveWell Podcast. I'm Dr. Mike Roncesvalles. We're glad you're with us today. And we've got the whole LiveWell crew here.
We do.
Guys, thanks for coming. Trevor.
Yes.
And Alana.
Hey.
Good to be here.
And Megan.
Hi.
Woo. Alana didn't get the great this time.
I didn't.
remember
She
last
got one
episode. It was Alana.
We gave you a lot of crap about
the
that.
Yeah, she
That's
disappointed me a little bit. So I only call her that when she's in my good graces.
Oh boy.
You've got time today to make up for that. You might
shared
be
my crackers with you this morning.
You didn't have an option.
Yeah, right.
Listen,
Yeah.
we're so glad that you guys are here listening to this mayhem with us. We've got, I think, a really cool podcast for you guys. It's emotional eating and food addiction. How do you know if your relationship with food is messed up? We're going to talk to you about that today and hopefully give you some strategies that can help you move forward if that's you. Okay? You ready?
Good.
All right. First question for you guys is, do you struggle with emotional eating, food addiction?
It's about to get real personal, real quick. Today, here.
I actually don't think that I do. Sorry.
I hate you.
Okay,
She's actually right.
But I do have a sweets problem, but I don't emotionally eat. It's not a thing I do.
Megan is the most mindful eater I've ever met
Really?
in all
That's
my lives.
debatable. I wouldn't say mindful. I'm more mindful and aware of what I'm eating rather than eating. I'll shove some food down like real quick
Yeah.
and not be mindful about it. But I'm more mindful about what it is I'm eating.
Well, the LiveWell party the other night.
I did. I had 4 cookies and spaghetti, and I did not care.
That's right.
But it had nothing to do with my emotions.
Well, you're one of the most mindful people I know, period.
Yeah.
So that does not
Thanks.
surprise me that you're very mindful in the way you eat. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Good for you, Megan.
Thank you.
You can give us some good tips on how you do that
Please.
later on.
I
Is
will.
boredom considered an emotion?
Boredom?
I think so.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, good question.
Bored eating.
Definitely eat more when I'm bored.
Yeah.
Oh, same.
Like you're on a road trip and you're just driving and driving and driving and you just
Yeah.
can do nothing else but like stop at the gas station and get some.
I can
Junk
speak
food?
to that actually.
Uh-huh.
So, and that was Jacob behind the cameras, guys, by the way.
Yep.
Producer Jacob.
Creative director. So the thing with, I don't know what it's called, but boredom eating, right?
Yeah.
It's sometimes triggered by anxiety, like where you feel like it's the behavior of eating, not necessarily like the digestive process. It's like having to constantly put something in your mouth and chew and go through that process.
It has nothing to do with being hungry.
No.
I always want to be
Yeah.
crunching on something.
I'll
That's
t-
absolutely
yeah.
true. Always.
Oh.
I just want something crunchy.
Oh, we
Yeah.
found something.
Yeah,
There we
we
go.
did.
That's it. So can I share
Yeah,
mine? So
yeah.
for at least a decade, I was a really, really active runner. I still run, but not to the degree that I did for those years. And in those years, I somehow, came to the point where food really was fuel, and I just viewed it
Yeah.
that way. But a couple years ago, I started running less, and just lifestyle changed, and now that's not the case anymore. So I even just in these last years, I have shifted, and now I am experiencing. There are some things. It's not so much that there's foods that I crave. But it's late at night, where it's like I should go to bed,
Yeah.
but
First,
right, I'm gonna eat something. you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not hungry, and I know I don't need to, but I will anyways.
So
Interesting.
there's a reason for that. And we've got Mary McCarthy, our resident LiveWell
Yeah.
medical
Yay, Mary.
expert that's
Right.
going to explain that. But dude, the same thing for me. Like there's something that clicks on in my brain
Yeah.
at night, and I just crave. I want something, and usually I want something sweet.
Right.
Sometimes,
Yep.
So like every once in a while, I'll go. This is super weird.
Yeah.
So sometimes I go and get. You know what banana peppers are?
Oh yeah.
I don't know what happens. Like 10 o'clock, I want like 4 banana peppers straight by themselves, and then I'm done. I don't know what that's about.
That's
Like
a-
not the little rings. You want the whole banana
the
pepper.
whole banana pepper.
that is oddly specific.
It's weird
But
on every
it's-
level, but
Is it healthy? It's a vegetable.
maybe it's health food.
That's
I mean,
the-
I don't eat vegetables at night, so props to you.
But it's
That's
not.
true.
Look, that's like 10% of the time. The other
Right.
time, it's like those Toll House break and bake cookies. Do you
Oh
know?
yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like this,
Yep.
it takes like 11 minutes for like complete dopamine push in my brain to where I'm the most.
Right.
It's like just an incredibly pleasurable activity to sit there and eat the warm cookie and like dip it in the milk
yeah.
and like just.
Just the chewy morsels and the melting in your
And it-
mouth and the cookies
it
and they're
doesn't-
warm. Yum.
It doesn't help that your wife bakes the best cookies I've
dude.
ever
Yeah, that
had.
was her
That's
fault
right.
that I ate so many.
Oh my gosh.
That's what I tell her all the time. She doesn't go for it, Trevor. I don't get it.
I don't.
Isn't that
Can't help
wrong?
you there.
Yeah.
Safe
That's
safe
right.
play
That's
there,
right.
Trevor.
So I think we all have this like stuff that goes on for us. Oh wait, Alana, did you talk? You've got it. You've got it.
You have a sugar thing.
Yeah, seriously, self-disclosure. Come on.
Let's talk about the tea that you drink at my house. How many cubes of sugar do you put in that
Okay.
when we drink tea at night?
Are you British? How many
We
cubes of?
We have tea time
We do.
at my
We
house.
have tea
and I
time.
have sugar.
And you have cubes.
I have sugar cubes.
I haven't seen a sugar cube in forever.
yeah, we have tea time every night. But I
4 cups of Starbucks around the table.
That's we
Yeah,
could talk about that
so-
also.
Uh huh.
Yeah. Just for the record, I've got an Americano here with 0 sugar. I just
Oh,
wanna
right.
state that
That's
for the
right.
record.
Look at
Yep.
you.
Well done.
I can't say that.
We will not disclose what we're drinking.
yeah, about that.
Spoken like a true addict.
That's it. Exactly.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I can neither confirm nor deny what's in my cup right now.
That's
Just
right.
know that it's
I can-
extra sweet.
I can read.
No.
Okay, I'm just kidding.
No, yeah, I do have a thing with sugar. Is it an addiction? I don't know. Is it a thing
Comforting?
that is it a thing that like the sweet is comforting to me maybe? I don't know. Maybe I have to get that checked out. We'll see. But Megan yells at me all the time because I like things sweet.
I wouldn't say I yell. I just kind of give her an eye roll. And I'm like, how many cubes of sugar do you want tonight? Are you sure you don't want to try my cream that has like a little bit of sugar in it that's not going to kick you over the edge? She's like, no, I'm good.
Now, when you're home and not at Megan's, do you still eat the sugar? Like it's still.
I still put just as much sugar in my tea and coffee as I do when I'm at Megan's.
Can I disclose the goodies that were next to the bed when I spent the night at your
Sure.
house on Friday? Okay.
Uh-oh.
So Alana is a very great hostess. I will just go ahead and say that. She had a little goodie basket for Lisa and I, and it was filled
Wow.
with chocolates and like mouthwash and more chocolates. Like there was a mint chocolate with a note, like a welcome note, right next to the bedside.
Yeah.
Who are we with?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I kind of felt really bad because I was like, you stay at my house on Mondays and I don't do any of this stuff for you. She's like, yeah, we've passed this
We're
already.
so past that.
We're so past that.
They like drink tea with sugar cubes.
That's right.
They have care packages for each.
And mints
guys
on the
are-
pillow? Like,
Yes.
Mint on
Chocolate
like it
mint
was,
on the
it
pillow.
was not farly stretched from mint on the pillow.
Okay.
It was right next to the pillow.
That's awesome.
Way too fancy for me.
Yeah.
All right, so here's what we've developed.
Yeah.
We've developed or established everybody at this table is we're human.
Yeah,
which means that we
absolutely.
have issues with food.
Yeah.
Like we
Right.
have a relationship with food. The question is, do we have a healthy or an unhealthy relationship with food? So let's do this. I sat down with Mary McCarthy. Let's listen to what Mary has to say about what happens in our brain and our body when we eat, especially the high-fat, high-sugar foods. And then let's come back and figure out what we do with it.
Good.
Fair enough?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. And today we've got Mary McCarthy, our resident medical expert here at LiveWell.
Hello.
Mary,
Hi.
what's up?
Not much.
Thank you for taking just a second to talk to us. When we thought about doing this podcast on emotional eating and food addiction, I thought I've got to get Mary's perspective on this because there's a lot of this that's like wrapped up in the physical part of our body, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so first question for you is like that mind-body connection, because when we eat high-fat, high-sugar foods, something happens. Like, dude, I don't know what it is, but something happens in our body and in my mind, because it changes everything. I just don't want to stop. Why?
Exactly. Well, we have several different neurotransmitters in our brain, and they all have different emotions attached to them. Serotonin makes us feel happy. We got norepinephrine that can motivate us and give us some drive, and the dopamine is what gives us a reward system. So it's a very similar to any other addiction. If you're constantly getting pleasure from eating, your body keeps craving that and to boost your dopamine. So I think it's really it's both a physical and a mental.
So when I eat like cookies, not that I love cookies, because I don't. I kind of do, but I don't like to admit it. You're saying that as I eat them, dopamine, serotonin, all these neurotransmitters are just like flooding my brain. And that's why I'm hooked into it, is because it literally gives me a pleasurable response.
It really does. There's a lot of different genetic research, which is, the new thing, all these genetics, and certain people are absolutely more prone to having with their, it's called an HRT, HRT2T. We'll have to look that up. But the serotonin in our bellies is related also to our brain, which some people have, they just never get that satisfaction. They'll have a false satiety. So they're just, even though they're full, they just still want to keep eating. So that along with the dopamine as well can really just make us never feel satisfied with just one or two cookies.
Just one. And it's kind of like an addiction. I've done addiction treatment for years and years, and it's kind of the same thing. Like, I've never met an alcoholic where one drink was enough. Never.
Yeah.
It's like one drink is too many, 1,000 is never enough, right? So I think you're describing the same process. Like, for me, it's like one break and bake Toll House cookie is never enough.
No. And when you mentioned the alcoholics with the substance abuse, most people who stop drinking then now have a sugar craze, and they just constantly want ice cream and cookies and sugar, something to satisfy that same area of the brain that they were getting with the alcohol.
It really, I think the point here is we tend to think of it intuitively. People that I'll talk to, just, whoever out in the community, we think of it as, well, just stop eating. Just stop doing this. Just don't overeat. But the truth is, especially once you build those neural pathways and that you're used to getting that dopamine rush in your brain from eating high-fat, high-sugar foods, man, we start to crave that, and it becomes compulsive, just like someone who's drinking or smoking weed or doing something else that's addictive in nature.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that.
All right. One more question for you.
Sure.
How do we know we've got an issue with eating? Like, when you think about eating addiction or food addiction, what are the characteristics physically or emotionally that you would say, man, you got something you need to address here?
Well, I would say if you start to associate eating with shame or guilt, or you're finding yourself lying about what you're eating or hiding it from others, and clearly if you're becoming physically unhealthy with weight gain and just not feeling happy with yourself, I think that you probably have an issue with addiction, similar to other addicts who hide and lie about how they use. You do the same thing with food.
Man, that's really good. That's super good. I haven't thought about that, because people will hide alcohol all the time, right?
Absolutely.
I found this vodka bottle in your closet or in the garage, or
and people will hide in food in their bedroom and hide the wrappers, and just because they're embarrassed of how much they're eating.
That's really so. Shame and guilt and deception are the hallmark characteristics that there's something physically going on, neurologically going on, that you need to address, that you need to figure out.
Yeah.
Really, really good. Real quick, medicine wise, what would you do? Someone comes in, they're like, man, I can't stop eating the high fat, high sugar stuff. I'm compulsive about it.
So I'm a big believer in psychotherapy and behavioral therapy. So I feel like if anyone's going to be successful, you need to have both. Medicine can help, but that's just half of it. That's with almost any disease. A diabetic, we say, let's try our lifestyle changes. Lose some weight, exercise, eat healthier. Your blood sugar is still elevated. Well, we might need some medicine. So I truly feel that the beginning point would just getting some therapy to kind of find out why you keep, what's making you go back and for more food. And the medication part, there's lots of different things that we can use to help. There's appetite stimulants or suppressants, I should say. And then there's other things. When you think about why you're going back, it's really because you have a lower dopamine. So there are certain antidepressants that can elevate the dopamine in your brain that can help decrease your cravings. Even Vyvanse, which we use for ADHD, that is FDA approved for binge eating. So for people who binge eat, they tend to have lower dopamine, and that is one of the ways Vyvanse works.
Awesome. Thank you for all that information. Really, really good. And I'm glad you brought in like the connection between the physical health and the emotional health. And Mary and I are doing a program specifically to help people lose weight here at LiveWell. So that's kind of our bread and butter, right? We want to be able to help people see the connection. It's not just enough to address it physically. You've got to address it emotionally.
Right. Just taking a pill isn't going to solve the problem. It's got to be both for someone to be successful.
It's not what you eat, it's why you eat. I think that's the question, right?
I agree.
All right. Mary, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Wow, that was some really cool information from
She's
Mary.
amazing.
Yeah,
that
it's
was
very
awesome.
informative.
What's the one thing you learned from Mary?
Just one?
Well, a thing. What's the coolest thing she said?
Well, so like as an addiction treatment specialist, I heard, Mary say some things that, I could identify with, like as a treatment provider, where she said, one of the indicators of when food becomes an addiction is when there's addictive behaviors behind the eating, like hiding and lying and deception, just the same way that it may come across in other forms of addiction. And I thought that was fascinating because it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I found interesting the physiological reinforcement, right? She talked about the dopamine, the serotonin, right? And that it reinforces the behavior, right? And so you want to keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that, like, for me, to hear a medical professional who's trained to address the physical things that happen inside of our body, to hear her say it's very important to address the emotional side and to know that, psychotherapy and an understanding of why you're eating is as important as what you're eating. To me, that's the coolest thing she said, because that validates, I think, who we are at LiveWell, right? Yeah. Like, we're body, mind, spirit. We want to address the whole person. And that's why we've got Mary with us, is because she values that.
And she talked about, changing lifestyle changes and making that an important piece of it.
Yeah.
And dietary changes, all those things.
All right. So if you're listening today, we're establishing the case that we all have a relationship with food. We just have to figure out whether or not it's healthy or unhealthy, right? So here are some questions that you can ask yourself to really try to understand whether or not your relationship with food is healthy or unhealthy. Number one, it kind of goes back to what Mary said. Are you exhibiting some of those behaviors that would suggest shame and guilt are deeply connected to your relationship with food? Are you hiding? Do you not really tell people what you eat? Do you sneak snacks? That's a big piece of the puzzle, right? I mean, do you guys find that in clinical practice, even, Alana, or is that a piece of the puzzle?
I think it's one of the biggest pieces, because it's one of the overt behaviors that because sometimes people that are struggling with food addiction or other addictions, they might not even know it until they start exhibiting those overt behaviors, like hiding food and like really kind of doing a self-check and saying, oh, whoa, hold on, that's not like a normal or typical or healthy behavior. It's one of the biggest indicators, I think.
Yeah. One of the things we talked about actually in last week's podcast was the opposite of that, where people who are under eating, right? Their relationship with food is unhealthy, but from the other angle, right?
Right.
And so they're declining an invitation to a dinner party. They're choosing to have an excuse, to not be with a friend and have a meal.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that it all comes back to that question of why we eat, right? Because then you start to ask yourself, okay, am I really trying to shield people from my emotion? So Jacob was saying earlier, is boredom an emotion that you can eat out? Now, that's huge, Jacob. I mean, like the idea that we're looking for dopamine, like Mary was talking about, we're looking for dopamine. We're looking for pleasure. Right. That's the experience of pleasure in our life. So if you find that you turn to Little Debbie Swift cake rolls, which are like heavenly, like literally created by God on the 8th day.
Yep.
On the 8th day.
Debbie.
After he rested on the 7th,
He rested on
and he
the
made
7th,
Little
and then he
Debbie's on
made
the 8th.
sugar. And he made sugar cakes.
I mean,
on
those
the
things
8th day.
That's in Genesis what?
I mean, it's in there somewhere.
Oh,
It's
okay.
another translation.
Must be in the New Testament.
Okay.
So,
That's hilarious.
I mean, that to me is, when you look for that when you're bored, just for a little pickup, like you're saying
Yeah.
earlier, Trevor, like at night, just like I'm about to go to bed, I just want a little bit of pleasure, just
Yeah.
Or what
calm
if it's-
myself down a little bit.
Could it also be a sensory thing? Like, because for me, it's a crunchy thing. Like, I want something crunchy.
Yeah.
I just need that
Absolutely.
crunchy sensory.
I think what that would do is the compulsion of it
Yeah.
releases the dopamine, right? It
behavior.
might not be so much the high fat, high sugar stuff. It's more like you were talking earlier, just
The behavior.
The
The
behavior. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So first question is, are you emotionally eating? Is shame and guilt and boredom and frustration and depression and stress, are they behind your decision to pick something up, put it in your mouth, and eat it? If so, your relationship with food needs some work.
Yeah.
Number 2, do you struggle to demonstrate moderation when you eat? So there's nothing wrong with like a dessert, right? I mean, I think
Sure.
that's cool. Like we all should be able to enjoy something, but do you struggle to like have a little bit?
Right.
Right. Well, and also if you there's that like 15-minute window that you're supposed to give yourself to allow yourself to become full, right?
Right.
So if you're scarfing food down, you're not going to be hungry. So you're going to think that you really need to eat more because you haven't experienced that full feeling yet. Your body hasn't told your brain that you're done.
Right.
So you're going to keep going.
Right. And I think we as Americans, we have a skewed view of portion size.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
There's that too.
My thoughts exactly.
So I mean, our measuring stick, our scale is already way off. Right.
So I talk to people a lot about like mindful eating, right? Because you can, if you go to a fine restaurant,
Right.
they give you a smaller portion.
Charge you twice as
They
much.
charge you twice as much,
Yes.
which is okay. And the whole idea is you want to savor that food, right? You like literally want to just, it's like the idea of like fully enjoying that moment and how that tastes. That's why those foods are usually like super strong. And that's in contrast to like Cheesecake Factory, where you go and you literally have to like create room on the table for your plate where there's all this food. That's the opposite of mindful eating.
Right.
It's just like scarfing stuff down. So the moderation thing is huge. That's a big indicator of whether or not we have an issue with our relationship with food. I struggle with it. I'll be honest with you. I try so hard not to eat sugar. That's a true statement. I try super hard not to eat sugar. And you guys can attest to that. Like but if I do, it's usually like, I'm going to have 7, right? I'm going to eat 1.
Yeah.
I'm going to have 7 because I almost feel like, well, I've blown it anyways. So now's my chance. Right. Tomorrow I'm going to know I ate these break and bakes.
Yep.
So I might as well just eat as many as I can possibly fit in my stomach right now because I'm never going to have another one. Yeah, that's what I do to myself too. I'm not going to eat these anymore. So
might as well go all in.
All in. Go
Which
big or go home.
It's part of the unhealthy mentality behind the eating. And I want to speak to to that second question you posed is, do you struggle to approach foods that you crave with moderation? Why that's so important, because a lot of the most effective eating disorder treatment centers that I've historically worked with, they all work with the all foods fit modality, where you mentioned it earlier, like sweets are okay in moderation. These foods are okay in moderation if there's no, especially if there's no like other physical health issues behind it, like diabetes or something like that. But with all foods fit, like there's something, implementing moderation in that actually like helps people achieve such a great balance in their relationship with food. So that's a really important one too, I think.
That's good.
That's super good.
In fact, one of the great things about moderation is there's sustainability to it, right?
Right.
I mean, there's so many of us who go on diets and we cut excessively all of these things from our lifestyle, and then we fail, and then we rebound, and then we have a cycle of we're in and out of these fads and these phases. Yeah.
So I one thing I've tried with sweets. I feel like this is a therapy session for me. So y'all
You're
can
welcome,
y'all
Dr.
can
Mike.
bill me later.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing I've tried is on weekends. If I've done good during the week and I'm not like just packing my face with sugar, I'll have a dessert, right? So I will, we'll do the break and bakes, and I'll have a couple cookies, and it'll be great, right? So that's something that I've tried, which normalizes the idea that like cookies aren't evil, right? That they're okay, but it's what I do with them that matters. But that leads to our third question, and that is, do you have problems following the rules that you set for yourself with food? Because if you have, if you set some rules and some boundaries, and then you consistently cross the boundaries, your relationship with food needs some work.
Yeah,
Right.
you're absolutely right. I will admit I have a relationship with food that I have restrictions, but it's based on a health condition that I have. So I do have to restrict certain foods. But October through December, I let myself do whatever it is that I want, because the foods tend to create inflammation in my body and they mess with my emotional state. So I try not to do it for the rest of the year. But I know that I'm going to experience some, inflammation in my fascia in my body, and I'm going to be sore for a certain amount of days if I have a weekend of eating all the pies for the holidays and all the things. So I know what it does to me, but I do give myself that break during the year, because I don't know. I don't know. But I don't know if that's me giving in and giving myself a get out of jail free card, or if I'm just trying to be a part of the experience with family and friends during the holidays and not limit myself so much.
Well, you're still setting a boundary for yourself, and I think like that's
This is also
rule
my
number
therapy
3.
session.
Right. Setting and keeping boundaries.
Yeah, because you're setting and keeping that boundary.
Yeah,
So I think that's kind of what we're talking about. It's just it might look different for everyone. So
Yeah. We used to live in California, and one of my boundaries was if I went for a run in the morning, I could stop at the coffee shop on my way to work. And that was a boundary, but it also became an incentive, right?
Yeah.
It became a reward.
For
and
sure.
so good and bad food now became a reward of behavior.
Right.
Right. And so, but it initially started as a boundary.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've tried this before. I have tried this before. So one thing I used to say is, well, it's the holidays,
Right.
right? So it's the holidays. I'm not going to not eat a great cake
Right.
on Christmas Day.
Or pie?
Right?
Are you
Or-
kidding?
yeah,
Strawberry rhubarb pie?
So you start it with Thanksgiving, right? So Thanksgiving, you've got to eat the pie, right? And then you just got a couple weeks.
Well, in October
2-3
there's
weeks.
Halloween, so then there's
I was
candy.
gonna say,
Candy.
Yeah, it just never ends.
So let's start on Halloween. So Halloween.
Yeah, that's
That's
what I said.
right.
October through December.
Then you got Thanksgiving. Then it's like, well, Christmas is right there. I don't want to
Exactly.
start drawing boundaries now.
Yeah.
So I'll just wait until Christmas. Well, then it's New Year's.
Right.
Right. And then, I don't know
And
if
then
you
it's
guys...
Valentine's Day, and then it's Easter,
Yeah.
and then it's
Well,
4th of July, and
That's
why
Yes.
I stop at December 31st.
See, that's smart. That you can't do the holiday thing because there's always holidays and there's always vacation. Because I do it on
Yeah.
vacation too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm on vacation.
Right.
Well, you start scheduling vacations so you can.
But that's where you have to ask yourself, am I harming or am I helping? Like with those restrictions and the limitations that you have, and then with the what am I giving yourself an excuse, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I think we could probably keep talking about this another hour.
Yeah.
I'm
but
sure we could.
We've got to cut it off for today. But if you're watching or listening, we really want you to know your relationship with food is important. Issues and struggles surrounding it is normal, right? Just like Mary talked about, like what happens in your brain when you eat, especially high fat, high sugar foods, is real. So know that the struggle is real for all of us. If you feel like you've got an issue that you want to address, to say, man, I've always wondered why I can't break through and just really set the good boundaries and the healthy habits, we'd love to help you do that. We've got something that we've developed specifically for that reason. It's called LiveWell Coaching. And LiveWell Coaching is an app that you get on your phone. When you get the app on your phone, you're connected with a real coach on the other end of that technology. So that person's with you 7 days a week that can answer questions. And that coach will help you actually build a plan, a healthy wellness plan for your life that would include healthy eating, and then pump good, healthy content to you all the time through the app so that you have access to articles and videos and just positive, healthy behaviors that will help you get from where you're at to where you want to be. And the whole time that coach is there and present, we really believe that change happens within the context of relationships, right? So that coach is like your person to help you meet your goals. If you're interested, we'd love to answer your questions. Just go to livewell-coaching.com, livewell-coaching.com. And of course, if you have a mental health issue or have just thought about counseling before, we'd love to help you with that as well. We've got therapists that are there and available and ready. If you have questions about that, go to livewellbehavioralhealth.com, and we can work with you to help you, like I said, get from where you're at to where you want to be. So again, thanks for being with us today. We appreciate all your time, and from the LiveWell team, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.